right, welcome to the very first podcast episode for this channel. Now, I've got about five different topics here, ranging from various different subjects, which is something to at least be expected with a lot of these future podcasts. There will be various different subjects and me talking about stuff, which again I'm glad to have because of I don't have to always focus on either music and so on. I can focus on other different ones. You might see one or two of the same subjects, at least crossover, or at least into a lot of the future podcasts. However, you do not expect to hear me talk about fucking politics, okay? You don't have to worry about that. I don't want to. That'll be too much of a fucking headache for me, and would definitely take up. It would probably make these podcasts like 1 hour, which I'm trying to at least focus on within at least 50 minutes, maybe an hour. But I don't want to go to about 2 hours, and talking about politics, it will easily go into 2 hours or 3 hours. I don't want to. So, do not expect that, and do not worry. Alright, so, this first topic here is, since, of course, the reason why this is the first one, because of the rest of the four, are at least are going to be a little more interesting, a little more happier in many ways, maybe happier, I don't know, depending on what's your choice for happiness. But this first topic here, since I'm definitely going to have to get this one out of the way, as of course is sad losses in 2020. So, and of course there's been four sad losses, and of course one of them was like within the early parts of January, which of course we lost the late Neil Peart, the drummer for Rush, which of course it's I'm not gonna try and go through all of this. Of course, as far I kind of always kind of figured, I didn't want to think about it, but be quite honest, we all kind of figured it was going to end up being the reason. I mean, of course, the main reasons why Rush was breaking up or splitting up was because of, it was all because of Neil Peart, because he was retiring from music, and it was all all health issues, but we didn't know how severe it was going to be, and it definitely got pretty severe. And on January 7th, on that day, just to find out that Neil Peart had passed away, it was like definitely was a little rough one. Again, I'm not the hugest Rush fan, but I definitely like their 70s material quite a bit. I mean, I also like some of the early 80s material. I mean, Moving Pictures is definitely a good album, and it was definitely one of the earliest Rush albums I heard, along with 2112 and those albums. And of course, a few definitely within the, was it late 2009 or somewhere around there, or the 2010, I definitely got into checking out a lot of the early 70s albums, and definitely I just started to really more appreciate Rush, and also for the musicianship of Neil Peart. So it definitely was a very much a sad loss. One of the other, but that wasn't the only one. There was definitely some really surprising ones. One of them being drummer Sean Reinhart, who had passed away on January 24th, who was best known for drumming in bands for mostly Death, and even the band Cynic, which I'd never heard a fucking Cynic release in my entire life. However, I was very familiar with his work with Death, especially on albums like Human, if I am correct. Again, very unexpected for, again, great drummer too. Definitely his work on that album is good, and definitely one of Death's finest. However, another really surprising one, and though some might not be completely as shocking as, or not as sad, I would guess, as Neil Peart, was, of course, Reed Mullin from the band Corrosion of Conformity. Now, I wasn't completely aware of some of his health problems, but apparently he had some, and it was definitely quite a little sad to hear that he had passed away. Now, the only Corrosion of Conformity album I own is Animosity, which again was definitely part of the crossover thrash years. And of course, I'm very familiar with the very first Corrosion of Conformity album, so that was definitely a little little sad one. Another real sad one that really kind of shocked me, since of course I just saw this band just last year, but of course he wasn't with them at that time, wasn't completely concerned or wasn't completely aware of this former member's health problems. That of course was Josh Pepe of DRI, who of course was, let me go on to, who was the original bass player, or at least one of the bass players for DRI, who of course played on albums such as Crossover, Four of a Kind, and that, and of course also was on the Violent Pacification EP. It was definitely that definitely hit home a bit, also because I definitely like those DRI releases, so that definitely was a little sad one. All right. So hopefully, who knows? We're probably gonna expect to see some losses here. We're in the 2020s. I mean, the 2010s was definitely the decade of probably of just losses, and for at least when it comes to music and film and TV shows and all sorts of those kind of arts. So we're sad, but we're gonna probably have to expect some of those, even if we don't want to at least try to think about it or expect that. We're going to expect most of that, and so that's definitely going to happen, and definitely a little tough one for me to talk about. All right, but that's it. That's it for at least the sad losses in 2020 topic for this podcast. So let's just run in to at least to the next topic here, which of course it will be a little much more easier one to talk about. Who knows? We'll see. Again, don't expect this to be any shorter. This is gonna be a long one. Again, something gonna at least be easier to have with for these podcasts. So. This next topic here is new releases and reissues. So let's get into that, which is always something for me, since I get to talk about quite a bit. I used to do these used to have been its own topic in the past, but now I don't have to make videos, or at least videos discussing on new releases or new reissues and so on. So. That's always great. So let's see real quick. Let's see, since I'm looking through at least the upcoming album section here on the Metal Archive. So let's see what's coming out. I'll probably just since I know there's a lot of here stuff I'm not completely familiar with, but definitely when I start talking about a certain band, that's definitely what I'm looking forward to. So let's definitely see. Alright, so what's coming out? Seeing nothing completely interesting right now. Of course, just tomorrow will be Legal at Last from Anvil, which I'm definitely looking forward to. And of course, tomorrow being, of course, Valentine's Day. It definitely is kind of a weird day, though, for Anvil to release their upcoming album titled Legal at Last, which, of course, has nothing to do with Valentine's Day. That's for sure. It definitely has something to do with, I guess, recreational weed, marijuana. So what a weird. But then again, though, I'm not here to judge anyone who's probably going to be smoking that on Valentine's Day, or if that's how they want to spend their Valentine's Day. Definitely looking forward to that. Who knows? It's probably going to end up showing up in my mail on that day, anyways. Which I'm definitely looking forward to listen to again. I definitely have dug quite a bit of the last couple of Anvil albums for sure. But again, Anvil is Anvil, Juggernaut of Justice, and Pounding the Pavement. I've all dug those albums. So, and from what I've heard from songs like Legal at Last and Nabbed in Nebraska, it definitely sounds like a classic Anvil to me. So that's definitely coming out on the 14th, which will be tomorrow. Now. So let's see what else is coming out. I see Kreator is going to be releasing a live album on the 14th as well, called London Apocalypse, live at the Roundhouse. That'll be interesting, especially, who knows? I don't know if any of you were aware of that, but if you weren't, I hope you're thankful of me at least announcing that for you. Definitely something that, who knows, maybe some of you, if you are fans of Creator, which I am, I definitely like Creator quite a bit. But I really haven't checked out a lot of the later albums, but I know that for those, that's definitely going to be one for you to check out. That's for sure. So let's see what else. Doot, doot, doot. All right. Nothing on the first page here that's jumping out at me. Let's see, anything on the February 20th? Wait a minute. Something coming out on the February 16th is Master with Slaves of Society, which, is this a newer album? Yeah, it's going to be... No, actually, it's a reissue. Excuse me. I guess the reissue, what is this? Fallen Angels Productions apparently are reissuing Slaves to Society from Master. Is this the same artwork anyways? Nah, it's different artwork. Different artwork, seems like. Alright, so there you go. If you weren't aware that Master's album Slaves to Society, if there's any fans of the band Master on this channel, which I've talked about maybe slightly here, if you weren't aware that they're reissuing the Slaves to Society album, then there you go. You can probably then end up jumping on again. That reissue is coming out on February 16th. So let's see what else is coming out. Nothing completely jumping out at me right now. Nothing on February 21st. Let's see what else. We're seeing some reissues for Dio's albums such as Angry Machines, Killing the Dragon, Master of the Moon, and Magica. Not familiar with those albums though. Definitely at some point when I start getting, I'm gonna have to break up for a little bit. It seems like again these are vinyl reissues, so that should be at least a blessing for at least the vinyl lovers here who are probably subscribed to me. If you never ended up, if you didn't get the chance to probably get these albums when they were first released on vinyl, well there you go. They're getting all reissued on vinyl again, and that's all on February 21st. So there you go. That's very cool. Again, not very familiar with those Dio albums, but whenever I get back on the kick and want to check out some more later era Dio, definitely those are albums I'm probably going to have to get. And let me know also what, if any of those 4 albums being Angry Machines, Killing the Dragon, Master of the Moon, and Magica, let me know which one of those 4 are actually essential Dio or at least good albums to check out, because I'm not quite familiar with those. So, let's see, I see also the Canadian speed metal band Road Rash releasing an EP on February 21st as well, which again, a band I'm quite familiar with, so some maybe not be, but again, they're a fine, decent Canadian speed metal band, but they're releasing an EP on there. Who knows if I'll check that one out or not, we'll see. Also, seems like German speed thrash metal band SDI are releasing an album on February 21st, which of course the album's titled 80s Metal Band, which was their first album. It seems to be this is for a vinyl reissue or final pressing, but it was released on CD back on January 31st. And again, they were a band in the 1980s, so I can look on here on their Metal Archives page. The last album was actually back in 1989. It was titled Mistreated. Of course, if you are into obscure German metal, these guys were on the Scratchcore label, which is a sub-label for Scratch Records. The last time, though, they had released something was actually 2017, and it was a demo titled the Ball Run Demo 2017. But this will be their first full-length album since 1989, so since, 21 years? Which again, it seems to be all new material. Who knows whether or not if I'll actually get to checking that album out or not. We'll see. So that's coming out again on February 21st. Let's see what else is coming out. Looks like Actor are releasing their full-length album on the 24th. Now, if I am correct, this might be the same Actor. Yeah, this is the same Actor, I believe that is. Was formed by, let's see, yes, Sean Black. Of course, High Spirits, Professor Black, Dawnbringer. which of course will be the second Actor album according to Metal Archive, since of course they had Sean Black released the first Actor album in 2015. It was called Paranoia, which was released through High Roller Records. I think this new one is, I believe, it's being released through his own label, Professor Black Records. Which of course there will be a CD release too, both CD and vinyl, on February 24th, even including digital for those who are probably into buying digital releases. So definitely that'll be cool. Who knows if I'll check that one or not? And let me know if the Actor album Paranoia is definitely worthy of being checked out, because I definitely dig Sean Black's stuff from High Spirits. I definitely dig that. So. Definitely let me know if it's definitely worthy and if it's just as good as High Spirits Actor. So that's about it for at least the second page. Let's see what's on the third page here for the upcoming albums section here on Metal Archives. Let's see what else. Here we go. Looks like here the German metal, new wave or traditional heavy metal band Stallion are releasing Slaves of Time on February 28th, which will be the third full-length album. Of course, also being released through High Roller Records, being given, of course, the slipcase treatment, which I've been noticing quite a bit with High Roller Records. But again, it will also be both CD and vinyl. Again, this would be their third full-length album, since their very first full-length was released back in 2014, titled Rise and Ride. And of course, their follow-up album in 2017 was titled From the Dead. Definitely. Now, I'm not completely familiar with some of their full-length albums. Now, I remember checking out their EP, which was titled Mounting the World, and it was definitely a solid EP, which was released originally back in 2013. But definitely, I may have to at least give one of at least their albums a chance and stuff. Which again, I'm very much slacking on some of the higher roller bands, even though I'm very familiar with. Again, which hopefully I'll probably sooner here talk about one of my favorite bands to have been signed to High Roller. But there you go, Stallion, Slaves of Time, being released on February 28th. So that's definitely something. If you're a fan of that band, I'm definitely can tell you're probably looking forward to that. Alright, let's see what else. Here we go. Also on February 28th, looks like, I believe this will be H&E Records. Yeah, Hear No Evil Recordings are going to be releasing a box set for the band Metal Church. It'll be titled The Electric Years, which, again, 1984 to 1989, so basically it'll be the first three albums. Seems like, it seems like the first Sam doesn't have bonus tracks, or at least one bonus track. I'll definitely get on here a little bit. So I guess we're going to go on a little bit of rant here, so get ready. But it seems like The Dark is going to have Watch Diligent play single edit, woohoo, who gives a fuck, and Fake Healer single edit for the bonus track on Blessing in Disguise, which again, I own the first three. The only thing that would have probably made me, which of course, finally here, we're going to get to a little small rant, which again, I was aware of this box set release, but again, I wouldn't have mind getting this release. Again, they're supposed, I guess, remastered, but here's my problem. It seems like The Dark and Blessing in Disguise all have a bonus track. Again, not very interesting bonus tracks, but the one thing that would have made me probably would get this box set if Metal Church, at least if the first album was actually given the song Big Guns, which is only found on the independent vinyl release, and of course the Steam Hammer pressings. And the song Big Guns was left out of most of the CD releases. That's kind of a shame. H&E kind of would say kind of shit the bed with not adding the Big Gun tracks to there, because of it. Just to me would feel it's gonna feel very pointless if I get this box. I mean, I own all these three albums. It's gonna to me feel like I'm rebuying them. The only thing that would have at least put this box a little over for me, at least piquing my interest in getting, if they add if H&E here added the song Big Guns. Because again, there's no other bonus track, no other. It's just the regular 9 tracks, but fucking Dark and Blessing in Disguise all have a bonus track, and again, they just seem very, not so very interesting bonus tracks. I don't get the fucking fascination with that. If I thought the whole point of adding bonus tracks was to at least add something a little different. It seems like, so within ever since the whole include, or at least the whole idea of adding bonus tracks, seems like a lot of record companies have just abused the idea and have just really kind of, it just seemed like they definitely made it to where that they don't have to give a damn about putting some time and effort into making bonus tracks at least seem interesting. It just seems like it's all thrown together, and that's what it seemed like H&E just did. So I'm not going to probably getting the Metal Church, the Electric Years, 1984 to 89. So there, small rant. Who knows? We'll probably get back to some more rants. We'll see. That's what to be expected with also some of these podcast episodes from me. So there. That's about it. Let's move on. So that was coming out on February 20th. But if you do not, though I will put this out, if you do not own any of the first 3 Metal Church albums and you're looking to get them on CD, that would be a good investment for you to get the Electric Years 1984 to 1989, which again, it gets released on February 28th. If you are interested, definitely go out and get that. They are worthy, good albums. Those first 3 Metal Church albums are definitely great. The reason I won't get it, like I just stated earlier, and I don't have to go back into any more depth, I own those 3. There's nothing interesting added to them to make me want to purchase them. So with that, it's not a no-go for me. But for you, it probably is a go for you. So there you go. So there, that was that. That's coming out February 28th. So let's definitely move on. Let's see what else. Nothing quite yet. So there, that was it for page number 3 here on the upcoming album section at Metal Archives. So let's see what else. See, the band Burning Witches are releasing an album on March 6th titled Dance with the Devil. Not very familiar with that band. If you are familiar with them, that might be a very, at least something you're looking forward to. That's about it. Looks like the black metal band Mayhem are releasing a compilation on March 6th. March 6th. What the fuck? I'm flubbing words here. And on March 6th, titled Out from the Dark. Okay, cool. Again, if you're into the band Mayhem, that might be interesting. I don't know. Who knows if there's anything interesting on that compilation? Who knows? Looks like here we go. Here's an interesting. This is a band I'm very familiar with. This, of course, is Dexter Ward. They're releasing their 3rd full-length album on March 13th, titled 3. Again, Dexter Ward are a Greek new wave traditional heavy metal band. Definitely one of the earliest, or actually one of the first new wave of traditional heavy metal bands. And again, a band I'm very familiar with. The only thing I have from them is actually their cover of Running from the Law from Riot, which is on the Thunder and Steel Down Under, a tribute to Riot City, which I do own, and that's a very good comp. That's a very good tribute disc. Very good. I mean, it's also was released by Skull Records, and when they do tribute discs, they definitely pick some pretty good bands to for those tribute discs. I know there's actually is a tribute disc to Anvil that Skull Records had released, but however, I've never seen anyone sell that. I've never seen anything physical from that, so I don't know if it was ever released. Let me know if it was ever released. I'm very interested. That's something I'm very wondering about. But here, back to Dexter Ward. If you are definitely a fan of the band, which I know if you're all into the new wave, a traditional heavy metal movement, I know this is probably a band you are very familiar with. If you're not, they definitely are a good band. Nothing bad about it. I know Holzbau Metal or Renee from Spain over at Holzbau Metal has definitely hyped that band up before. Definitely, and of course, if you are in the new wave of traditional heavy metal movement and stuff, that guy is definitely talked about quite a bit, and he's definitely worthy of checking out for sure. Great channel. So there's a plug for you on this podcast. So there, again, their 3rd full-length album, titled 3, is coming out on March 13th. So there. Dexter Ward, and of course under it is definitely an album I am for sure looking forward to. That's of course is Ambush with their long-awaited 3rd album titled Infidel, which will be released on that same day. Oh my god, I mean, shit. I'm very, very happy that they're finally putting out a third full-length album because, I mean, I dig the Desecrator album. I mean, it's definitely a good album. But it's like, what, 5 years ago? That was just 5 years ago, and last year, the only thing we had gotten new from Ambush was the Hellbiter single, which the song Hellbiter will be on the album. The only song that's missing that was also on the Hellbiter 7-inch is the song called Heavy Metal High, which has been left off of the album here. Which again, I'm looking at the track listing right here on the Metal Archives, which definitely surprises me. So I guess if you wanted to at least get that track, you gotta get that 7-inch, and definitely that's a great 7-inch with two good songs from Ambush. Now, also, within the whole with the whole topic of Ambush here, I definitely have to also bring up that the longtime guitar player for Ambush, Adam Hagelin, has had left the band here in beginning of this year, and so Infidel will be the last album that of him being in the band. So. Of course, since then, he has been replaced by Karl Dutzik, who, of course, replaced him here in this year. So, maybe by the time they might release a new, or we get to record a new album, hopefully, I would like to hear something from with him in the band. But again, definitely something that was definitely a little surprising to me, a little bit, a little sad, because again, I thought I thought he was definitely had some great magic with him. He definitely seemed to have been very good, but so that was definitely a little something to have Ambush have its very first past member, new guy to leave the band. So definitely something. Definitely again. Hopefully he does something else. Hopefully he ends up in some other band. Hopefully he doesn't completely quit music, because again, I think he was a great addition to Ambush, and definitely one of the original members, that's for sure. So definitely something. But again, Infidel will be at this point the final album with him as a member. So definitely looking forward to Infidel. That's for sure. So that's being released through High Roller Records on March 13th. So Ambush, Infidel. All right, and of course here we also have Brazilian old school extreme metal band Vulcano are releasing an album on March 13th, which is titled "I in Hell." Which I'm definitely wanting. I've been kind of warming up to the album Holy Wicked, which I thought was a decent album for sure, but it was definitely not one of my favorites. Which again, I kind of already said that on my extreme metal list video. All right. Also, another album that's also coming out on March 13th. This will also be a long-awaited album for this band. That's, of course, is Wolf, one of the earliest, or at least one of the earliest Swedish metal bands that kind of play that sort of traditional metal band before. Definitely one of those bands that also predates the new wave or traditional heavy metal movement. Again, Wolf. Feeding the Machine being released on March 13th. Again, this will be their first album since Devil Seed from 2014. This is definitely a band I haven't really much kept up with. The only album that I own from Wolf is Evil Star, which is a fine album from Wolf, and it's probably the only thing I own from Wolf. I've been wanting to at least trying to inspire myself and want to get some of the other Wolf albums. Again, I do dig their sound, but somehow they're just not one of my favorite Swedish metal bands, but they definitely do have a good sound, and from what I've heard from at least what they released as far as a single for the Feeding the Machine album, it sounds good. It sounds like a good old classic Wolf. So if you are a fan of that band, that's definitely something you probably are looking forward to. So there, Wolf with Feeding the Machine coming out on March 13th. Alright, so that's, I think, was all coming out on March 13th. Let's see what else is also coming out. Nothing quite yet. Not seeing. So that was it for page number 4. We're now on to page number 5 for the upcoming album section here on Metal Archives. I know this is going quite long, but you know what? It's a podcast episode. I can go as long as I want to. Just trying not to make sure that this goes over 50 minutes or at least over an hour. So we'll see. See what else we got here. Nothing quite yet. Alright, I think that's pretty much it for page number 5. Just nothing quite there that at least comes out at me. So here we go to page number 6 for the upcoming album section here on Metal Archives. Nothing quite yet. I think I might recognize this one band. Is this the same band I might be thinking of? Yeah, this is. I actually reviewed this band. This is Snake Eyes. Now, they're going to be releasing their third full-length album, Evil Must Die, on March 28th. I forgot who it was that turned me on to these guys. I think it was one of my subscribers. I can't remember who it was, but he had recommended me the album Metal Monster, which was on that same year, 2017, to review, and I thought it was a great album. It was a great album from Snake Eyes, who again has a very classic U.S. power metal sound, very much not unlike bands like Vicious Rumors or Hellstar Metal Church. Even at times Judas Priest or Accept, they did do a cover of one of the Accept songs. I can't remember which one it was. Let's see if I can find it. I can't completely think which one was it. We'll see. I'm trying to find it here on the page. Not quite yet there. We'll see. Yeah, I can't completely think of it, but what Accept on they covered. Yeah, I just can't completely think of which one it was. But again, great band. Definitely, I'm somewhat curious about how the new album sounds like. Evil Must Die. I'll see how it is. And again, that comes out March 28th. So, Evil Must Die by Snake Eyes coming out March 28th. So that's about it there. So let's see what else we got. This must be a reissue. Let's see if this is. Yeah, it's a reissue. Of course, back to Mayhem here. There's a reissue of D Mysterious Dom Satanas, or Satanas, I think it's titled again. Limited edition remastered copy, 12-inch vinyl. And that's about it. If you never had the chance to probably get that album on vinyl first time, and are a fan of Mayhem, that's probably something you might invest in. But who knows how much they're gonna want for it? We'll see. Let's see if this is also. What is this for? Looks like there's also gonna be a reissue of the band Soothsayer for their first album, Have a Good Time, which was originally released back in 1989 through Restless Records, and was also released through New Renaissance Records as well. Looks like that's getting a CD reissue here on April 24th, 2020. Not familiar with that band, but I was always not completely. I mean, I knew about them, especially when for looking through the Colosseum and on the New Renaissance Records label page. Again, great, cool, obscure metal label. That's a good something good. So again, if originals are very hard to find, that's definitely something to look forward to. At least that reissue. So that's coming out again April 24th. Let's see what else we got. I think I'm very familiar with this other band right here. Oh, yeah, it is. It's Sandstorm. It seems like there's going to be a reissue of their independent released EP titled Time to Strike. which will be released through Dying Victims Productions on April 24th, 2020. Again, this is a Canadian new wave, a traditional heavy metal band. Great band for sure. Definitely has that old school feel, which is something to expect with a lot of new wave or traditional heavy metal bands. So if you're definitely curious about that band, it's getting a CD reissue. So definitely look out for that if you're very much interested. So that's coming out on the 24th as well. Let's see what else we got. I see something also is getting released by Lamb of God, though I probably could give two shits about. See also something from Powerwolf. That's probably about it. So that's it for at least the new releases, reissues, and so on. Part of this video, which of course is just me running through what is being on the upcoming album section of our Metal Archive. So that's about it with that topic. So we're about 35 minutes into this, but we're probably going to go a little more further because this next topic is definitely going to be interesting, that's for sure. I know this definitely has been making a lot of headlining news, that's for sure, especially whenever this was coming out. But again, people were talking about this definitely since beginning of this month. That's of course is all related to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, basically snubbing bands like Judas Priest, Motorhead, Thin Lizzy, and Soundgarden, and even Pat Benatar, in favor of bands like either like Notorious B or who else I'm trying to think of, Depeche Mode and those bands. That's about it when it comes to artists that are getting inducted this year for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and people are getting pissed off that fucking Motorhead or Judas Priest and Thin Lizzy and Soundgarden and even Pat Benatar are all completely off, even though there was a fucking poll that was put up for these bands, it was for these artists. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame put up a fucking poll for some of these artists for people to vote for, because after all, it's a fucking competition to try and throw at least bands who have been here way before probably fucking Notorious B were at least had a fucking time. I mean, no disrespect, but when you have bands like Motorhead and Thin Lizzy and Judas Priest who have been around since at least the 1970s and aren't yet able to get into the fucking Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and you have to throw them on a fucking poll for people to vote for, is completely horseshit and fucking hogwash. I mean, we're talking about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, for fuck's sake. I mean, shit. To be quite honest, when was the last time the fucking Roll Hall of Fame was at least meant something? Don't completely think so. I mean, especially within, was it 2014, it seems since then it's been, and now again, here we go, back to fucking rants. But of course, this is something, I mean, as far as, when it comes to at least, we'll see real quick before I get back in. I was getting real hot there. Let me see. Inducting other non-rock artists into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which to me, I mean, no disrespect to some of those bands or some of those artists, like again your R&B artists or your soul artists, or even those no disrespect to some of those artists, but I mean, when there's been other bands here on who have at least made just as more of a dent in, at least when it comes to at least rock and roll in the 1970s or even the 1980s. Of course, trying as much for people who want the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame to kind of represent even the heavy metal genre, the hard rock genres. There's been other bands that have been around since at least the 1970s, or were formed in the late 60s, early 70s that are probably more deserving. I mean, fuck, let's also kind of talk about a band like Steppenwolf. I mean, you would have probably expected Steppenwolf to get probably inducted into the Hall of Fame by now. Because again, having one of the biggest hits, of course, being Born to Be Wild, but the fact that they haven't been able to get their foot into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is, to some, will probably be just as just as insulting. I mean, they were able to put the Zombies into the fucking rock and roll Hall of Fame, but yet Steppenwolf aren't able to at least get into a band who are just as big as that band. I mean, shit, you probably can hear fucking Born to Be Wild on the radio to this day, especially using fucking movies. I mean, goddamn, really? What's also the representation of Canadian rock bands in the fucking rock and roll Hall of Fame? Because after all, the only reason they probably want to at least induct some of these non-rock bands is so they could come up with more excuses not to actually induct the bands who probably who mean even more to at least to what rock and roll is instead of some of these artists. I mean, again, no disrespect. But this place has been called the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame since the 1980s, and from the beginning they were inducting rock and roll bands. At least that's what they were called. That was the point. I mean, do you expect the fucking the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame? You expect them to, I mean, let's go in here. If you're a sports fan and you're especially a fan of baseball, and especially with the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame, would it be just as more insulting to you if they just decided to start to want to induct other sports players into their Hall of Fame? Let's say a basketball player who probably didn't cross over into the baseball sports. I mean, not to speak of so-and-so, but still, if you are a sports fan and you start to hear that the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame are going to induct a basketball player into the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame, or even a football player, or at least a golf player into there, you'd probably be a little bit, let's say, a little bit offended. You'd be a little bit hurt by that. So why the hell, when it comes to a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, decides to want to induct a non-rock band into the Hall of Fame is, in many ways, to at least who are supportive of there, is probably very insulting in some aspects. I mean, if you want a Hall of... if you want to put these artists in the Hall of Fame, how can you not just make your own fucking Hall of Fame? I mean, shit, some of these hip-hop artists, they've got enough fucking money to probably make their own fucking Hall of Fame to begin with. I mean, they got tons of money to try to make enough to at least to have people back them up to kind of at least make one Hall of Fame for their own sort of their genre and everything. So why the hell does the Rock Hall of Fame feel like they have to reach out more? Fuck. I mean, I just said this, or stated this on one of my Facebook posts many weeks ago. If we're gonna fucking induct rap artists or hip hop artists, soul artists, and some of these artists into the Rock Hall of Fame, why can't we get fucking death metal bands or fucking grindcore bands? Fuck, I would actually wouldn't. If I have to, I'd fucking my first pick would be fucking Deicide. So I can hear fucking Deicide at 70 or 80 years old, probably playing sacrificial suicide at the fucking live at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That to me would be as funny as shit, and it would be the most craziest things, besides probably seeing any other fucking maybe industrial bands probably getting inducted in the goddamn Hall of Fame. I mean, of course, I know Nine Inch Nails is also going in there, but again, I have no problem with them. But again, all right, so that's about it. I mean, I can go on so on. I mean, I can rant as long. I mean, fuck. I mean, this is a podcast episode. I can go as long if I want to. I mean, already we're in 43 minutes here, but shit. Again, it's ridiculous that at bands like Thin Lizzy or UFO, and even the Scorpions and Michael Schenker Group, and Judas Priest and so on, aren't getting inducted to the Hall of Fame. Would be other artists who are around a lot shorter than some of these bands and probably, that they've made at least impact in their own in their respective genres. I know they made quite a big, but at the same time, to be quite honest, has anyone ever thought about the fact that if the reasons behind probably inducting these artists is not really because of these people, at least the politics over at the fucking Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, or at least are putting these bands in for good intentions. I think they're just putting them in there only because they want to come up with more excuses to try and at least induct some of these other artists in. It's fucking ridiculous. So there's my little rant on the fucking Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I think, goddamn, what the fuck? Rock and Roll Hall of Fame should be, again, it's always a joke that gets thrown out and it might get reused a lot, and why people call them that, but the Rock and Roll Hall of Shame, a place that will come up with as much excuses to not induct the artists that at least made way more impact and way more in the rock fucking genre than some of the other artists that are actually getting inducted, who obviously have nothing to do with rock and roll and are only just, and again, no disrespect, but again, they did more for their self-respected genres, but not really for rock. Who knows? People are probably pissed. They're going to get pissed at this. But you know what? Again, this is a podcast episode. I get to at least say what I want. If you disagree with them, that's fine. All right. So that's your third topic here. I mean, I can go as long as far with Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I mean, I can do a whole video ranting about the fucking Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So that is the third topic here. All right, so let's definitely now. I don't know how I'm gonna go and tackle this fucking his topic here. I've been definitely wanting to tackle this topic for a while, especially when trying to come up with this podcast episode. But this again, I'm gonna break away from music, but in fact, talk about a topic that I'm just as more, at least pretty passionate about. That's of course is wrestling. Of course, here professional wrestling. Again. I know that I know a few subscribers here who are definitely wrestling fans, but me, I am still a wrestling fan. I still watch. I don't just stick with one fucking professional wrestling company these days. I mean, there's plenty of still newer wrestling companies here. I can go and talk about it. I mean, I know the obvious fucking WWE again, and of course, I know them. But there's other wrestling companies right now. I mean, I know the advent rise of the new company AEW. I do follow them. I think they're definitely fine. I know there's definitely some people that I know that are not very fond of them, but me, I enjoy what AEW puts out. I mean, I do watch also AEW Dark, which is their secondary show, which is on YouTube. I mean, that's also talk about that. Of course, they got AEW Dynamite, which is their main show, which is, of course, was on TNT, which was the original channel for former wrestling company WCW, which again was around since 1988 to 2001. And I'm not going to go into. I mean, there might be a podcast where I will probably go into some in-depth talk about the whole little small history and what led to the whole debacle, what ended that fucking company, WCW. But again, I mean, you could probably. I mean, there's documentaries on what happened with WCW. There's plenty of documentaries on it. There's like the rise and fall of WCW, and definitely it's very interesting. And also when you and of course, there's stuff that even adds on to more of that when you start hearing interviews from guys like Eric Bischoff and so on. Definitely crazy stuff. But again, that WCW was the first wrestling show to be on TNT, and now AEW, 20 years or later. Still, I've watched them. Of course, I can now go into other. There's actually two YouTube-based wrestling shows, or the two wrestling shows are on YouTube. We got MLW, and of course, which I'll be watching. I do watch that quite a bit, and of course, NWA Power, which I guess I will start focusing on. I guess to becoming as NWA. We'll see. NWA Power, which. I know two guys were definitely big fans of NWA back in the 1970s and 1980s for sure, and I know that some of them are probably gonna end up, I guess, kind of come with some new facts right now for them. But the thing is, for some people, the NWA was a wrestling company that lasted, from like the 1950s and 1960s to about at least the late 80s, when Jim Crockett Productions was purchased by Ted Turner, which of course led to the formation of of WCW, which I just got into a little bit talking about what for how long WCW was on, and kind of giving a little brief of that. There was for I at least whatever. Anyways, yeah, this is gonna be a little tough one to kind of talk about because again, this is not always something I talk about all the time. The last time I talked about something else wrestling was in 2015, or was it 20? Yeah, it was actually it was 20. Yeah, 2015 was the last time I actually talked about anything wrestling. Was it the SummerSlam event that happened that same year? Again, that was probably the first really long video I ever uploaded. So this podcast episode might be the second longest that I've uploaded here on this channel. But again, NWA was of course a long running company, but ever since then there were plenty of times where it did kind of get re-brought back, or at least restarted and everything, and it had its ups and downs because of financial. I mean, it wasn't nearly at the high. I mean, every time it didn't have enough money back in May. Who knows how much TV backings or so? Because I mean, compared to at least at the time that it was getting restarted up, WWE, or then at the time WWF was having its rise with fucking. The whole Attitude Era. Yeah, WCW was definitely having its ups and downs during the time of the late 90s. Even though it was still seeing it was still productively seeing its money financially. It was at least financially seeing wealth. And of course, ECW, Extreme Championship Wrestling, was also having its time in the sun. So with these three, it was kind of difficult for, again, for at least the NWA to kind of at least have any sort of spotlight. Because again, the last time it ever had any spot was the late 80s. I mean, shit, at the time before the whole wars between WCW and WWF, there was, in a way, NWA was pretty good competition to the WWF. I mean, it had its own roster. I mean, that's where we got greats like Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, and even the whole Midnight Express and Rock and Roll Express, and even the fucking Road Warriors and them. At least they all came from there. That's where they were at least seen as big. I mean, even Ricky Steamboat was also in NWA. I mean, shit, he crossed over to both the WWF and of course NWA quite a bit during back and forth. And of course, even wrestlers such as Sting also got his start in the NWA, and just at least showed up right before, or just around the time that it was getting purchased by Ted Turner. So that was it. So it was definitely had some difficult times, but ever since 2017, though, it ended up getting repurchased, or at least purchased by of all names, fucking Billy Corgan of the Smashing Pumpkins, which of course, but it's not a complete shock to me that he would purchase NWA, because of by the time of 2014, there was a lot of rumors about Billy Corgan buying out TNA, who of course was going through a lot of rough patches during that time, and especially, right now that's a new company for you. Who knows? You might have been paying attention maybe during the fucking late 2000s, early 2010s, and I mean, there was a time. I mean, shit. If you want to talk about some fucking wrestling company blunders, or at least companies that at one point that people thought was once tried to live up to the hype, but then literally went downhill. Fucking TNA, man. Oh my god. Talk about a fucking wrestling company that completely, during that time, it was not. If you called yourself a TNA fan, you probably felt ashamed to probably call yourself a TNA fan. Ooh boy. What a weird time to fucking be a fan of that company. I mean, that was at the time, to me, it was kind of easy to probably go back and watch the WWE, because of, even though it wasn't completely a great product during that time period of 2011 or to at least 2015, it still relatively was much better compared to the fucking shell or fucking abomination that fucking TNA was really putting on. I mean, of course, it's no secret that Dixie Carter was really running it to the fucking ground. I mean, goddamn. And of course, along with Eric Bischoff, who at a time was considered one of the main people, one of the main geniuses to probably at least give to be the reasons for why WCW rose within the mid to late 90s. I mean, the main reasons for it being behind its WCW's big marketing gimmicks being the NWO, fucking Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall. I mean, the guy who probably came up with that, which, again, for a little while was beating the fuck because of that was beating the fuck out of WWF in the ratings before WWF had to at least scramble to figure out what to do to probably get back their rating. And that's of course led to the eventful rise of the Attitude Era with guys like Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock and Triple H and Mick Foley and all that, all them and Kane, Undertaker, But, of course, ultimately, for that little time WCW had during that period with the NWO, a little bit time in the sun, and of course, everything good would then crumble, and of course, it all comes down to when people start to realize how much of a fucking moron Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan were. Holy shit. I mean, talk about big egos who thought that they could do no fucking wrong, basically ended up being what added to the demise of that company, and so on. But, and I mean, still, I mean, Eric Bischoff to this very day still thinks that he's got good fucking ideas, but every time he's got a good fucking idea, he just cannot fall forward and keep the momentum going. It just falls crumble. And that's where we go to fucking TNA during that time of 2014 to 2015. Or was it 2013, I don't know. But when they started to come up with that fucking team that was aces and eights, I mean, Eric Bischoff thought what he could come up with at least, was it a lightning strike twice, basically. I mean, he thought that since he had the stuff to make the fucking NWO and all of that, it's like he thought he can create the second one since he was such a fucking genius in creating the fucking NWO. That he thought he could do no wrong with creating another team that might that'd probably be the biggest since NWO, might bring rise to fucking TNA and try and see if he can beat out any WWE in the ratings. But of course that failed because again, when you start to sign that your main your main ringleader being fucking Bully Ray was a great fucking idea, who of course was in just of his more of a ridiculous storyline trying to date fucking Hulk Hogan's daughter. Fucking stupid. And so they thought, and then within there, it's like, oh, who's revealing of Aces and Eights a ringleader, you know, who's gonna be the big guy, and it turns out it's fucking Bully Ray. And it just, it seemed forced, and it completely killed the fucking momentum. I mean, it had something going on in that, but it just ended up becoming nothing more than an NWO Part 2, but without any of the suspenseful build-up, without almost any of the key factors that at least what made people at least really invested into the NWO, and what made it at least a good marketing gimmick before, of course, it shot itself in the foot and led to the whole destruction or the self-destruction of WCW. So in a way, TNA just went back to shooting itself in the foot because, again, you got fucking Eric Bischoff who thinks he's a fucking writing genius. Ridiculous. But again, it definitely hurt. It hurt fucking TNA. It hurt it, and they were financially in a rut. So, but here, this is where fucking, what's his name? Billy Corgan comes in, and it was, even at that time, not just Billy Corgan, but even there was a lot of talks whether or not Vince McMahon was going to purchase Tim. I mean, already he had purchased WCW back in the early 2000s, which, of course, many will say that killed the Monday Night Wars, when the fact is the Monday Night Wars was fucking killed when WCW literally decided to shit the bed, basically. Well, with a lot of those fucking stupid storylines, especially when you got Vince Russo on board, who really thought that he thought himself that he was such a great fucking writing genius during the Attitude Era with WWF that he thought, oh, I can do the same thing with WCW, but without half the fucking creative control that fucking WWF had at the time. Jesus Christ. And it completely was so stupid. It really kind of, in many ways, him being Vince Russo being a WCW, kind of, in a way, kind of revealed the faults in Vince Russo's writing just as much with Eric Bischoff. I mean, him going to TNA just showed the faults in, gave away the faults in Eric Bischoff's at least marketing and writing and so on. It just showed how much, because again, you got, after all, Eric Bischoff thinks Hulk Hogan equals fucking money. Because that's all Eric Bischoff relied on was this former disgruntled WWF wrestlers. Which, of course, many people are at least for those that completely hate AEW, are thinking that AEW are probably going to have turning that, which it could. I mean, it's no doubt. I mean, if AEW keeps picking up most of the disgruntled WWE wrestlers and so on, it could somehow make AEW really turn out to be like nothing more than WCW 2.0. But the only thing that could change that if they don't have some of the let's say if they have to at least have some creative control and at least some over stuff, and not try and shit as much the bed that fucking WCW did during the fucking mid to late 90s. But again, that's where we could go back to TNA here. Again, it was a lot of assumptions of what was going to happen if Billy Corgan or even Vince McMahon was going to purchase TNA, which none of that happened. And Dixie Carter, I think, purchased it to Anthem Corporations, who, of course, was also at the time would then also back up Jeff Jarrett's own Global Force Wrestling, which for a little while ended up changing TNA to a bit Global Force Wrestling before they end up just renaming it or changing it back to TNA, but then just ultimately rechanging it to Impact, which of course was at the time the wrestling show that TNA was showing. It was like their flagship show was Impact, but now it's just Impact Wrestling at this point. And I mean, it's not as bad as it was at the time of them, but there's still plenty of flaws. I mean, of course, when you start to hear about other bullshit bullshit stories like or recent stuff such as Anthem Corporation's trying to kill its deal with MLW and so on. It's completely ridiculous. Anyways, eventually Billy Corgan wouldn't give up on trying to purchase a wrestling company. He would then purchase NWA, and now, in many ways, it might have been one of the best things that happened, because he's came up with the 10 Pounds of Gold television show, which was aired on wasn't on their own website, but now Billy Corgan's taking advantage of YouTube, and that's where we got the NWA Power show, which again, in many ways, in some ways, definitely for those, feels like a good throwback. It has that real throwback retro wrestling vibe to the sort of the studio wrestling days, basically. So it just has that classic feeling. I mean, if you were to look at the NWA wrestling ring right now, that's on NWA Power. If you were to kind of compare it to some of the older wrestling shows, in many ways, it might seem like night and day. But it definitely has some similarities. I mean, it almost looks just the same as the same studio that NWA aired its shows from. But it's a different roster, though. Definitely, it's got the same feel, but it's not the same wrestler. I mean, by now, some of those same wrestlers are old at this point. They're not at the age they were then. So that's why they're taking advantage of some of the more newer wrestling guys. And I think some of the guys I picked really kind of really represent the show at this point. They're very good additions, and they definitely kind of are able to really bring back some of that feel. I mean, I've got some of my favorites on that on NWA Power. I mean, I do like guys like Eli Drake and James Storm, who right now are the tag team champions. Of course, I do like the whole what's going on with Nick Aldis and the whole Strictly Business team, which is trying, I guess you could say, trying to create a new Four Horsemen, but it's got a good feel. But they definitely are a great sort of heel team. And of course, Nick Aldis being the still the NWA Heavyweight Champion, Dan Great, and of course Aaron Stevens, who was known as I remember knowing it as Damian Sandow in WWE, but right now, here he's in the NWA, and he's the National Heavyweight Champion, which, of course, he never held a fucking championship, at least a single heavyweight championship belt in the fucking WWE. So it's kind of great that they gave him at least a belt. And, of course, now they brought back the television championship belt, so that's all very cool. Of course, wrestler Ricky Starks has that belt. I mean, there's plenty of great guys on there. There's not a wrestler there that I don't completely dislike. I mean, they all got a real good feel. And, of course, the chemistry from them, their promos, their personality, and their in-ring work, it's all great. So I definitely did quite a bit of NWA Power. The only thing I can now knock it down for a bit is, originally their theme song was Into the Fire by Dokken. But now they decided to change it to I'm Broken from Pantera, which I'm not completely a fan of. I mean, if they were to use a fucking Pantera song for power metal, I would have been completely alright with. But no, they decided to go with I'm Broken. It completely kind of takes away a little bit from that sort of classic feel that they're trying to at least go for. It a little takes it away a bit. But still, overall, when it gets into the actual show, it makes up for that right at this point. So that's definitely another favorite show for me right now at this point. I mean, I definitely dig. I mean, I've watched plenty of other wrestling shows that ain't completely WWE. The only thing WWE has going for itself, though, these days is its secondary its supposed developmental show, which is NXT. That to me right now is where the heart and soul is at this point. I mean, if there was one point in time to me where I probably thought that WWF or WWE once had some heart and some soul, that to me was probably back during the 90s to at least early to mid 2000s was like my last period at least with the company, at least of me watching them. But still, I mean, once in a while WWE will do something good that I'll dig. But not all of it. I mean, you gotta go through a whole lot of hogwash bullshit to try and get through at least the good stuff, at least the good things are getting. I mean, I like, right now, some of my favorite things going on the main shows is, for Raw, fucking Drew McIntyre. I really dig the feud, what's going on with him and Brock Lesnar. I mean, I'm definitely looking forward to their championship match at WrestleMania. That's definitely what I'm looking forward to. I like what they're doing right now. They're building definitely Drew McIntyre as being a good, strong competitor to, of course, the fucking big and wrath of fucking Brock Lesnar, who, of course, right now is the heavyweight champion. Definitely, I like what's going on there, and I also am definitely liking what they're kind of doing right now with Edge's return moment here. Of course, they're building up some sort of feud between him and Randy Orton, who, of course, were former tag team champions back in the mid to late 2000s as Rated RKO. I dig that. And, of course, gotta kind of bring up a little bit of Royal Rumble as far as which was kind of the return for Edge, who, of course, who had been out with who had been basically retired due to a injury, at least a big career injury, which, of course, I know people say, well, you're talking about professional wrestling, it's all fake. His, you can almost say, was at least somewhat real because of he actually had to get cleared from I mean, he had a bad neck injury, and it put him out for at least, close to 9 years. I mean, the last time he ever was in a wrestling ring was in 2010, and he retired in 2011. So he had been out for a long time and had to focus on doing other films. I mean, if you think that every sort of wrestling is fake, then tell me one real thing. Tell me if and go back and watch some certain what some will say some of the most heroic injuries to ever be caught on fucking tape. I mean, tell me whether or not if Seth Rollins' fucking leg or ankle injury that took place in fucking Germany with him and Kane, tell me if that was completely phony because of the way that fucking Seth Rollins' knee literally bent so backwards. You cannot fake such a thing. I mean, his bones ain't that flimsy. Jesus Christ. So, in many ways, I mean, there's that shit can happen. People, and that's where we talk about what we call botches, which is basically not executing a move the way it's supposed to be executed. And again, that's where injuries really can happen. If somebody isn't complete, I mean, that's where, I mean, wrestling is choreographed at times. It is bit, but sometimes wrestlers can fuck a move up, and it has happened. And that's where, again, it leads to neck injuries. It can lead to other things, which again, takes away from what you could say was a bit of a, which was supposed to be some sort of, at least, choreographed sport. I mean, everything, I mean, scripted. Yeah, it's scripted. But shit can happen. I mean, so there's, and what happened with Edge was definitely something else severe, and it left him out for 9 years. But this year, he decided to, since he was like, going to try, he was going to doctors to try and get everything, to look at least his neck and everything to see which ones at least are good. At least to check out, if anything's healed. You know, to see if there's a solution to probably to see him coming back to wrestling, and he did, and he got cleared, and in the Royal Rumble he came in and he looked fucking strong. I mean, there was some sparks with him that I was like, holy fuck. I was like almost expecting him. It's like, oh shit, when you got the who was it? I think it was the Revival. Man, I thought for a while, or was it the Revival? Who was it? One of the tag teams, they take him up. One of them grabs him by the neck, which would be again the part of the part of their body, or part of his body that at least is the most concerned part of it. The one that ended up putting him out of action for 9 years. That ended up leading to him retiring. I mean, through there, and they put him behind that. I was like, oh fuck, are they gonna literally hurt us? And is this gonna be it right here? No, they actually injured, and again, he went back in, and he was just back to normal. Again, got back up, and during when it was just the last three between him, Roman Reigns, and fucking Drew McIntyre. Him and fucking Roman Reigns were almost having a spear test. Who can out-spear one another, and it completely was. I mean, Edge, his main finisher was the spear, which of course at the time he was using it, many people were kind of comparing it. Then he was probably using it to see if he can outdo Goldberg over in fucking WCW, But Edge used the spear, and it was the same spear that gained him and Christian the tag team championships at WrestleMania 17. Definitely was a great moment for them. And again, the way he did that spear, though, from the fucking ladder, oh shit. What a completely daring move to do. I mean, that could have been enough to fucking injure him there, but it was enough to gain him and Christian the tag team belts. But again, he's like out spearing fucking Roman Reigns and that. But of course, eventually led to Roman Reigns eliminating him, and then Drew McIntyre eliminated Roman Reigns to go on to main event WrestleMania and face Brock Lesnar for the title. Well, that's at least, and then completely end there. Again, the next night they're all hyping up Edge's return to Raw after making his comeback in the Royal Rumble. Of course, them, we all, knowing what happened. Of course, Randy Orton goes out there and, of course, does his heel shit and basically turns on Edge and beats the fuck out of him. And now people are wondering, did he just re-injure Edge or so on? But in fact he's been cleared still. And they're definitely, I mean, Edge just signed a 3-year contract, so They're for sure building up a WrestleMania match, so I'm definitely looking forward to that. But those are some of the only good things I really do like what's coming out of WWE. The only really only thing that to me is most consistently good is their supposed fucking developmental show, which is NXT. That's where, to me, the heart and soul of fucking WWE is at least in. At least when they were, at least to me, were once good, which to me was at least 1997 to at least 2002 or 3 to me. Because of to me is my sweet spot for that company. And since now that's the time I grew up watching, especially with Stone Cold Steve Austin, that was my favorite part of there. But NXT is where everything's at for me. I mean, the guys I got on there, all great stuff. I like definitely one of my favorite wrestlers at this point on NXT is Tommaso Ciampa and Keith Lee. I mean, Keith Lee proved himself. He can also have a match with Brock Lesnar. I mean, going back to the Royal Rumble, he hit one hell of a fucking clothesline to freaking Brock Lesnar. I mean, goddamn, he's fucking just as big as Brock Lesnar. And he hits that fucking clothesline like, holy shit. What, I mean, no other wrestler, I think, has ever impressed me as much might convince me of really having a really good match with Brock Lesnar than fucking Keith Lee. I mean, Samoa Joe maybe 2 years ago was at least convincing, but fucking Keith Lee, my God, what a great fucking moment, and definitely in many ways, what I seem to have also fucking really took Brock Lesnar by surprise. I mean, after that, I think he was completely like, holy shit, this. I mean, if you ever try to at least read interview or read any of stuff that goes behind the scene, or at least goes behind closed doors of the fucking WWE, it's kind of very evident that Brock Lesnar can be a very difficult guy to at least to convince to want to have a match with, or anyone to build with. I mean, he's a very difficult person, but I think at that point, with that, I think there might be a bright future between Keith Lee and Brock Lesnar. What a great moment. So that's that, but again, NXT for me is where it's at, so that's about it. I think I've gone on quite a bit on wrestling. I think I might have bored everyone again. I don't know how many people on my channel are wrestling fans, but that's about it. Okay, let's go with the last topic here. Let's finally get to the last one. This is going to be the last one, the most interesting one. This is going to be on metal news, so back to the metal talk. To end the whole thing out, and let's definitely get to one. And oh my God, let's talk about some really ridiculous fucking news. That's for fucking sure. Alright, so if you're not completely aware, there once again, fucking John Cyrus and Agent Steel decide to make some internet airwaves. With, of course, that has something to do with one of the members of Riot City. Probably the first thing, for the band like Riot City, they could probably get mentioned anything controversial, but this has something to do with fucking Agent Steel and all around, and all built around the sort of Up the Hammers fest, which again is a place for again metal and everything. Again, a lot of obscure, plenty of metal bands definitely got to play there. Again, Up the Hammers, one of Europe's, I think was it Europe's. What is in Europe? I can't remember. I think it is. Anyways, let me find the page here so I can read the whole fucking statement of this fucking shit fest. Okay, so we're definitely not gonna get back to something that's just fucking interesting. Let's see. Let's find this. Here we go. So, this came about here on 02. It's been in the beginning of February. It all has something to do with fucking supposedly John Cyrus's son, Nicholas Cyrus, and Dustin Smith of the band Riot City. All has to do with some fucking Facebook posts, but before I get into that, let's definitely go into the post that fucking Nicholas Cyrus, or the statement that Nicholas Cyrus gave out. So here we go. This is, of course, I'm reading it off of the Forces of Steel page here that my friend Painkiller definitely posted, and the Agent of Steel page. So let's just see. Let's just go through this. A disheartening and disturbing statement from Nicholas Cyrus, JCAS, Facebook admin, and the family of John Cyrus regarding Up the Hammers Festival 2020. Agent Steel were very enthusiastic as to taking the stage as Friday night's headliner at Up the Hammers Festival 2020, until a very disturbing event came about, which seriously concerned our family. The screenshots seen below show the bassist Dustin Smith of the band Riot City replying to one of my comments made on a mutual friend's post. The clear and outright homophobic libelous assault on John Cyrus and myself, his family, clearly shows the extreme bias this bassist has towards my father and our family. Dustin Smith being the bass player for the band Riot City. Adding insult to injury, his ignorance extends to homophobic libelous assaults upon the family members of John Cyrus, just as myself, being his son, administrator of this John Cyrus Agent Steel official Facebook page. What makes this basis, modus operandi, I think, ever more disturbing is the fact that when I reached out to the promoter of Up the Hammers Festival, forwarding him to the below screenshots clearly demonstrating Mr. Smith's homophobic libelous assault on my father and I for absolutely no reason, the promoter acted in a heartless and rude manner as his response to my plight. Therefore, this gives us a clear-cut understanding that in this universe, I guess he probably tried to fucking type in, even though it says inverse. I don't know what the fuck inverse means. Is that some other part of the space continuum that I'm not aware of? Again, let's just see where I was back at. Inverse. What the fuck was this? I just lost here we go. Inverse were to be staged by my father or anyone in the new Agent Steel, we have all reason to believe the promoter would not hesitate for 1 second to respond with an all-out attack against John and the band. Like a shark in bloody water, basically these kinds of libelous homophobic assaults splattered from the diarrhea mouth of Mr. Smith. Oh wow, how fucking immature are you? Clearly demonstrates not only his ignorance and disrespect for a veteran vocalist in the heavy metal genre, but also narrates his uninflicting disrespect towards the family of musicians for whom are about to open the show at UTH 2020. My father and I have never met Dustin Smith, let alone exchanged any words with him during any other incidents on Facebook. Despite being a straight male, I have personally been a supporter of people's choice and freedom of sexual orientation, and have always been taught to admire my father's freedom-loving stance as a stern supporter of the LGBTQ community and everyone's life-given right to choose whom to live. From the onset of Mr. Smith's reply written on January 11th, our family have had several meetings and we have approached our father with an ultimatum. We presented him with the ultimatum that he either stand firm for what is right and for the rights of all who do not deserve to be slandered and assaulted on Facebook, especially by libelous homophobic commentary, and of course for the dignity of our family by approaching the promoter of UTH 2020 with his own ultimatum, or we would disown him as a family member. My father, John Cyrus, has agreed with our family and decided to allow his personal... I mean, what the fuck? I'll get more of it. I'll give out my opinions a little later after I read through this. Promoter of where is it? Yeah, Slim clearly stated to the promoter of UTH that for principles associated with morality, our family's right to retain our dignity and the rights of all musicians, family members, that they too be allotted the right to not have to endure the kind of assaults such as the ones implemented or implemented by Mr. Smith. Mr. John Cyrus has decided not to take the same stage as Mr. Smith and his band Riot City. Long story short, after reaching out to the promoter of UTH a second time, he once more replied by blending, stating, "Riot City will play. Do you want to cancel? I am staying here on behalf of John Cyrus and Agent Steel before the public and fans that Agent Steel, not that. Fans that. The Friday night headliner of UTH 2020 have not chosen to cancel the show before the principles clearly stated in this post. Instead to clarify to the promoter of UTH that the band will not take the same stage as Mr. Dustin Smith and his band. So in all fairness, if the promoter chooses to take the high road and support Mr. Smith's libelous homophobic assault on John and his family, and worse, choose Riot City over the festival's headliner Agent Steel, then fans should inquiry as to the possibility of a refund for their pre-purchase ticket by reaching out to either Riot City or the promoters of Up the Hammers. We at the Agent Steel headquarters are very disheartened, and we apologize to the fans who were eager to see the new Agent Steel live up to Up the Hammer to see the new live at Up the Hammers, who are in fact the lineup that is to appear on the forthcoming release, No Gods Before Me, which I thought was supposed to be released back in October, which I guess it did not happen. Was it November? Before the forthcoming release. Finalizing, as most may fathom by now, principle and justice always stands at the forefront of John Cyrus' decision making, especially when it involves his family and the right that people not be bullied by ignorant garbage and garbage band mercenaries who may be trolling for other losers and wannabes. Regardless of the consequences following our expected reaction from the promoter claiming the band has canceled, and we state here for the band that Agent Steel have done no such thing. We hope that those who read this posts are now better informed as to the true circumstances that led to John Cyrus' decision to not take the same stage as Dustin Smith and Riot City on Friday night at Up the Hammers Festival 2020. And so let me make it clear that the perpetrator that is responsible for John's decision is clearly Dustin Smith and the promoters UTH, not John and Agent Steel. Agent Steel would gladly take the stage should UTH promoters choose to cancel Riot City from the running order. In closing, I would like to make a statement on behalf of my father and Agent Steel. Agent Steel is a world band and is not limited to having to do business with those who stand ruthless and opposed to the band's principles, which are clearly the rights for all people to be respected and who should agree that all should stand him. For the rights of people's choice of personal relationships and for the rights of the families of all musicians that they be treated ethically and with the utmost respect. Thulsi, not a word I'm completely familiar with. All musicians should work together in peace, support one another, and stand strong for the genre of metal music we are fighting to keep alive. All metal musicians should be respected and appreciated for all the great music they share with all of us throughout the entire world. Cheers, Nicholas Cyrus, John Cyrus, Agent Steel, Facebook admin. Before I get to any of my, at least my review or me talking about, or at least my opinions towards this, let's finally see the screenshots of this supposed libelous assault from Dustin Smith of Riot City. So here we go. This is Nicholas Cyrus. Looks like an alien to me. Dustin Smith replies with, John Cyrus, relax. supposedly thinking that that Nicholas Cyrus could be one of synonyms of John Cyrus of Agent Steel. Nicholas Cyrus replies with, Dustin Smith, this is Nicholas replying, what do you say my father has to relax? Dustin Smith, of course, Nicholas Cyrus replies back also saying, Dustin Smith, well, what's up? I guess being very impatient because this was it's still just within 9 hours because of what fucking Dustin Smith had replied 18 hours prior to that. And of course, so Dustin Smith now replies with what is considered to be the Libyus of homophobic assault. Who got probed first, you or your father? That's the fucking post that freaking Nicholas Cyrus is referring to as being a fucking homophobic Libyus assault right there. Because he said who got probed first, you or a father. When it's probably, if you weren't completely aware with John Cyrus, and of course, as far as the themes for Agent Steel, he apparently is a fucking alien nut. He's a goddamn alien nut who has to make references to fucking aliens. That's what Dustin Smith was mostly referring to, not fucking saying, and not that it's a fucking homophobic slur. Jeez. But then now, the second one here, there's apparently more to this. Apparently, I guess Nicholas also decided to, let's just say contact Dustin Smith, was it through... Or no, wait a minute. Is this... or wait a minute. Is this post also from fucking one of the Up the Hammers promoters? I have no clue. Yeah, this is the second part. Is apparently is a fucking it's a Facebook message to I guess the promoter or one of the promoters or of Up the Hammers. So he's basically Here we go. So here it is. It's go to Imager. The band doesn't want to play with Riot City. If they don't apologize, then it's either us or Riot City at UTH this year. And this, of course, comes from Slim K, who must be the promoter. Which, of course, why the fuck would Nicholas think was it's a great professional? I mean, of course, it can't be any more professional than fucking using words such as diarrhea in a fucking statement that's supposed to be represented as you being very, at least mature and serious. I digress. I am not, this again from Slim K, I am not going to do this. Please, everything up the Hammers related, the band must write officially through Slim K. Next time you write on my messenger for your personal problems with other people, you will be blocked. I use Facebook for serious reasons with my work. Obviously, he's basically telling him that this, I mean, we can just see already from the post, this is nothing more, to me, I think I wrote on fucking Force of Steel here, that this is nothing more than a glorified, what is this? Yeah, a glorified publicity stunt. Because, I mean, come on. Let's actually try and at least dissect some of this. I mean, he's fucking, I mean, for one, John Cyrus, or Nicholas Cyrus' son, is basically making out that his father is some fucking metal legend, like he's just as big as freaking Bruce Dickinson and Rob Halford or Steven Tyler or some sort. I mean, he thinks he's a fucking big time fucking musician who has made thousands of monies and owns a fucking mansion. He thinks he's that big, and he thinks they're fucking big enough to fucking at least bully Up the Hammers to basically fuck over a band who's outrageous, who's been around. Let's go to their page here. A band who has formed since 2011 and released their debut full-length album last year. They're doing everything they could to at least to make it somewhere. And just because of some petty shit that fucking Dustin Smith decided to reply to. I mean, he didn't really have to reply the fucking the John Cyrus' supposed son. And of course, some people are definitely making or at least accusations that this could very well be John Cyrus under some different name because of. I mean, look. Let's also look at this fucking last statement right here. Let's go back here. In closing, I would like to make a statement on behalf of my father and Agent Steel. Agent Steel is a world band. Was that one? Or John, it's like he's like, after all, like fucking John Cyrus ain't big and ain't adult enough or mature enough to be the one to probably type this out because of what he doesn't have the fucking maturity or doesn't have the galls to actually write this, and instead he has to use his son, or his son might be the manager here, or his fucking assistant or whatever. It's ridiculous. All I'm just, again, the whole thing reads like it's a fucking publicity sign. I mean, come on. It's fucking ridiculous, this whole thing. And again, the bully the fucking promoters to try and to decide with you. It's either them or it's either us or them. Come on. The reason why the fucking promoter decided to at least have the balls to fucking stand up, because no promoter wants to be told what the fuck to do. They don't want to be told what to what they're like, who to book, who to not, and fucking John Cyrus ain't really big enough to go on at least to throw his fucking weight around. Let's be honest about that. I mean, we're talking about John Cyrus here, the guy whose son, who only time in the sun was in fucking 1983 to 80 or 85 to 87, 88. He left fucking Agent Steel in 1988 or 87. And also, Agent Steel wasn't just a world band. It was Juan Garcia and who originally also Kurt Kufelt, who of course left Agent Steel to form Holy Terror after the Skeptics Apocalypse. Now, I mean, it was once at one more. It was just fucking Juan Garcia's band in a way. I mean, fuck. I mean, if anyways, he was the fucking heart and soul of Agent Steel, not fucking John Cyrus, who decided to leave Agent Steel after that. Like what? After releasing 3 fucking records, it's like, that's it, I'm done. Even though it was one little time he had some other band, I forgot who it was, but ended up releasing one fucking demo, and then that was it, I'm done. And goes, leaves, falls off the face of the earth, never to be heard of again. To where it's now one of those whenever people have those fucking conversations about, remember that guy? Oh yeah, whatever happened to him? That's what fucking John Cyrus is. It's like, what the fuck happened to that guy? And now he comes back years later, and now instead of trying to get back together with fucking Juan Garcia, oh that's right, the only reason because he tried to fucking put a copyright on the name Agent Steel back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Which led to fucking Juan Garcia to actually call themselves Masters of Metal. But then eventually end up taking back the Agent Steel name and reformed with fucking Bruce Hall. And released, 2 or 3 albums? That was it. But nothing against that though, because of, again, maybe John Cyrus had another way of having another chance at the fuck over Juan Garcia now. And again, he's a fucking con artist, this guy sounds like. He's a fucking con artist, and he's gonna completely bully a bunch of guys, and it's like, and also, I don't know, the whole thing's ridiculous, but what happens though when you decide to bully promoters? Again, they gain the balls, and they finally tell you how it is, and guess what? They in many ways they actually did take the high road, according to fucking Nicholas Cyrus. They decided to replace Agent Steel with Toxic. So Toxic is now playing Up the Hammers and not Agent Steel, which is good fucking riddance, because of it really seems like, again, what a perfect name such as Toxic though, because I can easily refer to John Cyrus and Nicholas Cyrus as toxic human beings. I mean, and also look to the, at least a message to the fucking promoter. Did you even watch the fucking performance that Agent Steel gave, was it, at Keep It True last year? It was a fucking disaster. It wasn't even any good. John Cyrus definitely seemed like he didn't take time to fucking prepare. I mean, the only 2 guys in that was at least that appeared on stage with John Cyrus as freaking Agent Steel, which to me, the real Agent Steel died at least when Juan Garcia and them split the band up at Bruce Hall. That's why the last time Agent Steel was probably Agent Steel. Anyways, it seemed the only two guys that were, at least the young guys that were playing on stage with fucking John Cyrus as Agent Steel. There was a video footage somewhere of those two guys practicing. You know what? You want to know who's missing from that that rehearsal video? John Cyrus. He obviously feels like he's such a big shot that he doesn't have to also rehearse with any of the guys that he's fucking putting on stage with. Jesus Christ, and he's gonna have the balls to, or think he's such a big fucking music legend that he can do no fucking wrong, that he doesn't have to take any time to not just fucking rehearse, but to even basically throw his weight around and see that people can bow down to him like he is fucking Anuak or whatever, some fucking alien god. Fuck right off. I mean, be quite honest though, I hope the actually at least gets postponed one more fucking time and doesn't get released. And I hope he also, after this, he just fucking leaves and goes back in the fucking, basically into... back into fucking obscurity to never be heard of again, like he did years ago. The whole fucking metal world was better without John Cyrus. It was doing much better without him. We didn't need this fucking guy to come back here to fucking at least to gunk up the whole fucking situation. We need him to gunk up any of the festivals, and also to say to the man that the fans should refund the money because of Up the Hammer us to choose him over them. Like, how big was fucking Agent Steel back in the 1980s? They did get some press, but the fact that gave him press was because they were playing with the likes of Anthrax and Overkill, who went on to get more better success than they did. I mean, probably the only guy within Agent Steel that ever cared about getting any fucking success was probably fucking Juan Garcia. I mean, he was doing double duty in fucking Abattoir, which again, at one point, John Cyrus was a vocalist with him before he fucking left. Which again, that was very early on. Again, he was doing stuff with Abattoir, and then when Abattoir split up and Agent Steel split up, he then went and formed the band Evil Dead. He's probably the only guy that probably gave a shit about at least staying with the music world. Whereas fucking John Cyrus, he didn't. He's like, oh, after 3 records, demo, I'm done. Oh, I'm done. I'm gone. Never be heard of again. And basically just becomes some sort of a blimp on the radar. So, good riddance to fucking John Cyrus and the new Agent Steel. It's not really Agent Steel. It's basically John Cyrus and a bunch of hired aliens. So there you go. No disrespect to any of the guys that are playing with them, but they deserve much better than this fucking gunk ass piece of shit. They deserve way more better. So alright, that was it for this podcast episode. Definitely the next podcast episode will probably be recorded at least around next month, and it'll be up there again, episode per month. So with that, I hope you all enjoyed this podcast episode. So until then, this is Every Thrasher Sam out, and I'll see you all later. Take care, everyone. I'll be back, of course, with more end of the decade lists, and there'll be more Am of the Week episodes, and definitely look forward at some point to seeing my review for Anvil's Legal at Last. Of course, Ambush is Infidel, probably in March. So with that, I hope you all enjoyed. Take care.